So I really appreciate and grateful for being here. Thank you, HITP team, for giving me opportunity to share my work from this platform. My title of this presentation is Gazing Ahead, What Modern RF Combat Will Looks Like in the Next Decade. So imagine robotic tanks that maneuver themselves across desert terrain, avoiding landmines. Thank you, Kuppa. So I really appreciate and grateful for being here. Thank you to HITV team. So in this presentation, we will be discussing about soldiers' uniform, like what are the different sensors integrated, and the IoT warfare, like Internet of Battlefield things, convergence of cyber and electronic warfare, jamming, RF-focused drones, counter techniques, and some of the case studies. So quickly moving forward, what do you think of a world where every device you own is connecting with each other to do your daily task? You open your eyes in the morning and a device is telling you the whole list of tasks you need to perform today. Also, you give instruction through your mobile phone and your coffee is ready while you get ready for the office. So where CCTV cameras can identify and stop excessive force before it turns deadly. To wearing sensors which report with real-time health data to alert patients to emergencies before they happen. Even as drones, which is being used to support first responder, IoT has transformational impact on our life across vertical sectors. So there's a whole thing of tasks that IoT is helping us with. So we can say a world without IoT is like living in a stone age. It may seem like a big claim for some of you, but when you see the bits of IoT reflected in every mundane task of our daily life, you will agree to it. So how important is the Internet of Things in our life? And even question is how secure you think it is. So in this slide, you can see the benefit of IoT are undeniable. IoT can bring much of the physical world from industrial asset to commonplace devices to people into a connected ecosystem, resulting in an enhanced customer experience and a better business outcomes. So increased connectivity and digitization in industry has produced an exponentially expanding attack surface behind which is safety, security, and critical services. So cars are now turning into computer on wheels and airplanes have become flying data center. But this increase in power and connectivity has largely happened without designing inadequate security protocols. So for example, IoT can improve multiple aspects of an airport, such as by regulating traffic flow and helping passengers navigating using Wi-Fi beacons, NFC tag, and geolocation. Streamlining security checkpoints with biometric like facial recognition and inducing the number of lost bags using electronic luggage tag and sensors. So given the potential and influence that IoT has on the world, it is worth looking at the security risk associated with these devices. So in simple words, Internet of Things is a broad network of connected physical objects or devices that communicate with each other and exchange data without human interference. So generally, all these devices are capable of collecting data, processing information, and transferring data. So IoT is wonderful in many ways, but unfortunately, technology has not matured yet, and it is not entirely safe. The entire IoT environment from manufacturer to user still have many security challenges to overcome, such as manufacturing standards, update management, physical hardening, user knowledge and awareness. So now it is not only with us or our computer, but there are also things that interact with the internet without our intention. These things are continually communicating with the internet, a fridge sending an update of the food inside or our vehicle, transmitting message to the mechanic to inform of its oil level. So here we can see, in certain sense, Sudan is like a guy who walks throughout the city and knocks on every door he sees. But instead of doors, Sudan knocks on every IPv4 address, and instead of some city, there is the whole world. So if you ask that guy about a particular type of door or about door in a particular part of the city, he certainly would know something and would provide you the information. How many of those doors are there, who answer them, and who what do they say? So Sudan gives you the same information about these IoT items. How are they called? What type of are they? And is there any web interface one can use? So there is no problem of knocking on door unless you find out that there are a lot of door with no lock and no one can stop the bad guy from breaking in. So on the other hand, Census is also a search engine for the IoT, relying on the same basic principle, but it's more precise when it comes to searching for vulnerabilities. So, oh yes, Census can actually give you a list of devices with a particular vulnerability. For example, those vulnerable to heartbleed. So if it's an IP address, you can see everything it sees and even control it if it supports something like that. If it's a router, you can change its setting. If it's a baby monitor, you can talk to the poor baby in a scary voice. So it's all up to your moral standards. So here we can see the common CIA triad for IoT security, where C for confidentiality, authenticity, and integrity. Now the main thing is confidentiality ensures like how is IoT information secured. So at rest, it can be very rare. Integrity, which means what integrity methods are used, and availability is like how is availability assured. So we need to make sure like our IoT, a lot of IoT devices are extremely small in size and fall into the category of low resources devices or constrained resource devices. So their physical limitations allow them to process low power resources only, which makes adding more layer of security difficult. So there is a serious trade-off between security and resources when it comes to IoT. And it's more complicated when we discuss about the Internet of Battlefield things. So ensuring that each device has the control to maintain data confidentiality and integrity within an organization is necessary. So in addition, investigation of IoT security along with data integrity holds practical significance in IoT development. So on the right side, you can see pyramid of pain, which is based on Cisco IoT reference model, and it is evaluated from a vulnerability perspective of the IoT system. So the most vulnerable part of the IoT system with the least impact if suffered an attack is placed on the top of the pyramid. Sensors sit on the top as they are the most vulnerable, being the most accessible part of the IoT ecosystem. The next vulnerable part is the communication between sensors and accumulated data by the sensors. The attackers can get access to this data through sensors or by getting into the network. Then comes the hardware abstraction and firmware, which stipulate application programming interface for the interaction between the application and the data. Lastly, the least accessible part at the bottom of the pyramid is hardware platform such as SOAP, FPGA, DSP, and etc. So even though the hardware platform is at the bottom of the pyramid, it is also one of the that deserves most major attention before it has the highest damage impact to a system in case of an attack. So it can be said that hardware is the foundation of the IoT system and the most pain-causing part in the case of a cyber attack incident. So therefore, IoT security should begin with the hardware security. Now let's see some of the case studies like how IoT devices can be considered in the defense. So for example, at a IoT, Department of Defense fuel depot, tank level, temperature, and flow rates could be inexpensively and precisely monitored. Inventory, usage, and payment could be easily integrated with the backend business systems. Perimeter security could be enhanced with more inexpensive cameras and motion sensor, like soil, water, and air quality could be continuously measured for leaks or emission. In similar way, with the addition of internet capability, real-time situational information can be relayed to command and support facilities remotely from the battlefield. But if enemy takes advantage of vulnerabilities in such devices or networking or compromised devices, it may allow the enemy to provide false information to the warfighters and the supporting remote organization. So clearly, it's important to prioritize addressing the highest risk vulnerabilities already installed in mission system, such as ensuring that the information is encrypted where needed, implement policies and processes to ensure supply chain risk management of a broader array of potential devices that could be deployed with our troops. Another case scenario can be of battlefield situational awareness. So very small size and low cost of sensing and communication devices makes them ideal for deploying in low power network in forward situation to provide warfighter with enhanced situational awareness. Now the threat can be imagine that the enemy takes advantage of these vulnerabilities in the devices or networking, hacking into or compromise. So they can easily get information like what are the what's going on the other side of the battlefield. Now, let's understand what is RF. So RF signals are a form of electromagnetic wave, such as visible light, which makes up a portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. This EM spectrum encompasses all forms of light, which ranges from audible frequencies such as the ubiquitous 60 Hz through the standard radio band, which include AM radio, FM radio, TV channels, and other RF band. So the spectrum continues through infrared, visible, and ultraviolet light to higher form of EM energies like X-ray, gamma ray, and cosmic ray. So radio frequency can be a complex subject to navigate, but it does not have to be. If you are just getting started with radio, or maybe you cannot find that old reference book about antenna aperture, this session will help you. It is intended to provide you basic understanding of RF technology and what are the future threats which we need to address. So let's see some what basically lights inside the radio wave spectrum. The following frequency allocation chart here shows various commercially used devices with their application and frequency based on the NTIA and FCC. Here you can see FM radio operating on 100 MHz, the GPS and cell phone somewhat near to 900 MHz, while ADSB signal on frequency 1090 MHz, which can directly capture from RTL devices, and 2.4 GHz bandwidth, which is used by more than 300 consumer devices, including microwave oven, cordless phone, and wireless network like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So invisible and ignored, our devices are currently screaming out large amount of information about us, our habit, our pattern of life to anyone who care to listen. So let's see some example of what is commonly being broadcasted and what can be done with this information. So I think like we already know this kind of attacks. So I will quickly move forward through it, and I will discuss about the from the defense perspective more. So basically we think about the signals in two domain, time domain and frequency domain. Time domain, when dealing with the world of radio frequency communication, often there are two families of instrumentation used for measuring radio operation and performance. The first family is represented by the time domain measurement, such as the amplitude of a signal over a given time, typically which is measured with an oscilloscope. This instrument also include basic digital meters, power supplies, and other related equipment. Time domain instruments are usually utilized when analyzing baseband performance, power supply operation, current draw, etc. Meanwhile, frequency domain, which is since a majority of the RF communication performance parameter regulations and design constraints are measured in the world of frequency domain, measurement usually take the form of power versus frequency. So typically measured with a spectrum analyzer. Instruments also include signal generator, which is used to produce carriers and data modulated signal, as well as network analyzer. So you can like using the RF frequencies, RTL devices, HDR like HEC RF, Blade RF, we can simply implement our own live RF broadcast. Then we can spoof the GPS frequencies, and we can transmit the GPS signal to spoof the locations. So we can like simply do it using the GPS HDR SIM libraries. We can also make our own virtual radar using the RTL 1090 or integrate with virtual radar to track ADSB signals. Other thing is using GRGSM to capture the IMSI of any mobile number. So if we like get the KC number, we can even decrypt the SMS and listen to call cell phones. So IMSI capture is again one of the RF attack. Another attack is like a replay attack, which can be implemented against the car. Another is like you can record the signals and you can replay. So you can hack into the smart lights. So we all know like Wi-Fi uses radio to communicate, but so do the other 99 plus protocol that make up the world of mobile, cellular, and the Internet of Things. I have not discussed those slides before in a practical way because we have already did the presentation on those things. So I will be discussing about from the defense perspective. So all these new radio enabled devices bring with them new invisible threat. Enterprises will need to be able to react to new threats entering their environment through the Internet of Radio. So some of the basic attacks can be RF attacks, can be sniffing, board driving, evil twin attack, replay attack, firmware update exploitation, jamming, physical layer protocol abuse, or make layer channel reservation abuse. So we often hear about the danger of dark web, but the Internet of Radio is not merely dark, it's invisible. So any wireless network is going to have a few security risks. So it is important to address them. Now, the first issue is that the fact that the sensors are broadcasting all the information they have continuously, and adversary listening into the network could easily see all the information which is being broadcasted, or even worse, fabricate their own data to confuse the clustering algorithms. The other issue is that an adversary listening to the network could attempt to flood the network with packets to prevent the sensors from transmitting their data, like DOS or DDoS attack. So in a press conference in 2016, NATO allied ministers formally agreed to include cyber operation in its war domain, along with the air, land, and sea operation, and to amplify the defense of its computer network. So declaring cyber as an official domain of warfare allows NATO to improve planning and better manage resources for cyber defense operation. So what does it mean is like NATO can now answer to any cyber attack, any kind of attack with the air, land, or sea attack. So if there's any conventional cyber attack, they can answer with weapons as well. Now the military face a new reality, one with multi-domain challenges. The way military build its forces, integrate its planning, and synchronize its operation must change quickly. So in modern military lingo, there are 5 interrelated domains: land, maritime, air, space, and cyberspace. Now the cyberspace domain is wholly man-made and is ever-changing. So in the emerging multi-domain reality, an attack will come from multiple domains simultaneously: jamming of radio and data link, persistent surveillance, and precise long-range fire. So military needs to instill to its commander the ability to deal with ambiguity and incomplete information, the fog of the war in digital age. So yet continue to operate in a manner consistent with the intent. Now, so there's a famous quote from the book Art of War by Sun Tzu. There are not more than 5 musical notes, yet the combination of these 5 gives rise to a more melodies that can ever be heard. There are not more than 5 primary colors, yet in combination they produce more hues than can ever even be seen. There are not more than 5 cardinal tastes, yet combination of them yield more flavors than can ever be tasted. So now we can imagine about the results from convergence of ground, airborne, naval, space, and cyber. So as we examine history, it becomes almost incredible that we would not have anticipated our great social media platforms to be infiltrated and weaponized against us. So here we will be seeing like some of the basic history of electronic warfare. So electronic warfare has come a long way from the early days of basic signal intelligence and has conveyed a wide variety of technology and use cases, like starting from the Russo-Japanese War in 1904, where the birth of signal, which is also told as the birth of signal intelligence. So Japan's ability to intercept and analyze Russian naval transmission played a significant role in the eventual Japanese victory. Then moving forward, like it was used by the UK as well in 1940, like the Battle of Britain, tuning the tide with radar. So using a new breakthrough in radio transmitter, the resonant KVT magnetron and detector arranged a range at different heights and angles to pick up the reflected radio waves bouncing off enemy aircraft. RAF fighters could be quickly directed to intercept. Again, in like a Cuban missiles crisis in 1962, for the deceptive drones, they have used the EW, the electronic warfare. So equipped with an early form of electronic deception, drones narrowly missed featuring in one of the Cold War hottest moments. The plan was for unmanned Ryan model 147, which is fitted with receivers for Cuba's Soviet-built surfaces to air missile and to overfly the island. So even like this was used for in the Vietnam War. Some of the other attack was like in a Battle of Latakia, where electronic warfare even goes to the sea, and the Stuxnet Gulf War, where the GPS at war. So while targeting and tracking smart missile guidance, the Gulf War highlighted the susceptibility of GPS to jamming, with even some relatively unsophisticated devices providing capable of masking the weak signal from the system's capability. So GPS still remains vulnerable to jamming and spoofing today. Now let's see like what happens in the future, like in the quantum superpower, because like quantum technology could be game changer across the globe and along for the world of EW application. So as we currently know them, quantum communication systems are inherently secure. Quantum radar can see through stealth. Quantum metrology offers an unjammable navigation, and quantum cryptography promises an uncrackable codes. So the fight to master quantum technology could render its adversary EW systems redundant overnight, and China clearly wants to win that race. So modern military forces are required to operate in an increasingly complex electromagnetic environment, which has recently been recognized as an operational environment. So all modern forces conduct operations that depend on the use of EME. The recognized use for the military forces to have access to and utilize the EME creates vulnerabilities and opportunities for spectrum warriors. So therefore, a new operational discipline has been set up accordingly, named electromagnetic spectrum operation, or EMSO. Here you can see EMSO consists of not only traditional electronic warfare, but includes several other disciplines which operate in electromagnetic environment, such as signal intelligence as part of information operation, spectrum management, and cyber electromagnetic activities. Electronic warfare remains the most main combat discipline of EMSO. The other thing is signal intelligence is included in the wider framework of information operation and refers to the ability to exploit signal, data, and information that rely on the use of electromagnetic spectrum as a physical layer. So EW techniques use electromagnetic energy on a targeted frequency, effectively dominating the insurgent's ability to understand, sense, hear, or communicate. So EW technology can also address remote control improvised exploitative devices, where sophisticated electronic countermeasures jam the control signal and prevent detonation by telephone, radio controlled toys, or other radio jamming emitters. So electronic warfare is divided in three domains, which is electronic attack, electronic protection, and electronic support. Here, electronic warfare, it comes like military operations are executed in an information environment, which is increasingly complicated by the electromagnetic spectrum. Now it is also called like ESM, ECM, ECCM, which means like electronic support measures, electronic countermeasures, and electronic countermeasures. So elements of command and control warfare, or for the military deception, for the physical deception, we use this kind of techs. Now, electronic attack involves the offensive use of EM energy, directed energy, or anti-radiation weapons to attack personal facilities or equipment with the intent of degrading. So some of the things which comes under electronic attacks can be electronic intelligence, like foreign non-communication electromagnetic information. COMINT can be communication intelligence, which works to identify if there's any foreign communication transmission which is intercepted by other than the intended recipients. Then some of the advantages can be for the personal facilities and equipment, we use active and passive energy to attack. And four classes of EA can be classified as jamming, modifier, radio absorbing materials, then physical destructions. While in non-destruction EA, it comes like jamming, noise, sport, barrage, sweep, chaff, plates. So these are all like non-destructive electronic attack. Now, electronic protection, which involves like action taken to protect friendly forces like personal facilities or equipment for any effects of friendly or enemy use of electromagnetic spectrum that degrade, neutralize, or destroy friendly combat capability. So here we can see army trainers successfully used cyber weapons and electronic warfare technology to thwart a simulated tank assault training exercise conducted at the Army National Training Center at Fort Irwin. So the exercise reinforced the need for the EW and cyber protection technology that is under development by entities such as the Army Rapid Capabilities Office. So this tank had to stop, dismount, and get out of their protection, reduce their mobility. So exercise like this one help determine the technology and equipment which is necessary to achieve this effect in the field. If we don't win the cyber and electronic warfare fight, then the next maneuver may not matter because we may not get to it. So while interference generally describe unintentional form of disruption during wireless communication, jamming describe the deliberately interference with the blocking of such communication. So as the name suggests, jamming antennas are especially used to interfere with the radio noise or signal. So in electronic warfare, these interference are meant to disrupt control of a battle. For example, jammer radiate interfering signal toward an opponent radar, blocking the receiver with high concentrated energy signals. So the two main jamming techniques are noise technique and repeater technique. Spot jamming, sweep jamming, barrage jamming are three most common types of noise jamming, whereas DRFM jamming is the most common type of repeater jamming. So in spot jamming, like we do the kind of noise jamming where jammer focuses on all of its power on a single frequency, rendering the technique ineffective against a frequency agile radar. So sweeping jamming is the process of shifting a jammer full power from one frequency to another. So this sweeping motion jams multiple frequency in quick succession, although not all at the same time. Meanwhile, barrage jamming is the jamming of multiple frequency at once by a single jammer. So the main drawback of this technique is that the jammer spreads its power across multiple frequency, making it comparatively less powerful at a single frequency. So now the question is, how can we secure ourselves and how do we communicate while someone is like doing a jamming attack on us? So wireless digital communication system generally employ radio frequency signal to transmit information. So transmitter needs to convert digital signal messages, which is represented in bits, to RF signal, while receiver convert this received RF signal back to digital messages. Now on the transmitter side, upon receiving bits from upper layer, the transmitter first modulates them to discrete baseband signals, then converts them into analog signal using a digital to analog converter, and finally up convert them to RF signal. So these RF signals go through the wireless channel and reach the receiver. Upon receiving the RF signal, the receiver performs the inverse processing. It down converts and sample the received signal to receive baseband signal and then demodulate them to bit. So in ally-friendly jamming, upon detecting a transmission, the authorized device can employ proper signal processing techniques to remove the jamming signal from the received mixed signal. So in contrast, the unauthorized device does not have the secret key and cannot remove the interference which is introduced by allied jamming signals. Now in figure 2, you can see which further illustrate like ally-friendly jamming, where one ally is presented for simplicity. So assuming the ally jammer, the unauthorized and unauthorized devices all are in the same area. So as mentioned earlier, the ally jammer and authorized jammer, including A1, A2 and AJ in figure, which share a secret key K. The ally jammer AJ, which uses a pseudo random number generator with K as the seed to continuously emit jamming signal X of J. So when the unauthorized device E1 transmits signal to X of E1 to another unauthorized device E3, the signal received by E3 will be the mixture of both X of E1 and some portion of X of J. With enough jamming power, the jamming signal from A of J can effectively distort the signal X of E1 at E3. So as a result, the wireless communication between unauthorized device E1 and E3 is disabled. When A1 transmits signal X of A1 to A2, the jamming signal X of J will also distort the received signal at A2. So however, this like to remove X of J from the mixed signal, authorized devices need to synchronize with the allied jamming signal, estimate their values in the mixed signals, and remove them from the received mixed signal to recover meaningful transmission. So this is how like we exactly communicate between when there's some kind of jamming attacks which is being performed. So in real-time scenario, after the designation like which is received by external RWR that analyzes the victim radar signal for key parameter, the jammer performs the actual following actions that generate ECM signal, which is intentionally by independent oscillators such as VCO. So here you can see the EA18G growler, which uses a powerful electronic attack jammer to blind enemy radar and protect allied aircraft during missions into hostile territory. So unfortunately, the very high energy from the jammer also blocks onboard communication. So InCans like collects a sample of the jammer interference and uses that sample to create an anti-interference signal, which it then mixes into the receive path for the protected radio. The result of mixing the interference and anti-interference is that they cancel each other out, leaving only the desired reception. So this is the real-time scenario like where this signals is being used. Now we can see radar performance and frequency bound. So radar is like most probably there are few factors which affect the radar performance. Some of them is radar power, frequency change, pulse rate, the kind of antenna we are using, and the scan pattern. So scan pattern, which means like influence of amount of energy which is directed towards the target radar. Again, like the propagation will depends the kind of receiver we have, the kind of transmitter we have. So these are some of the factors on which our parameter, the received power will depend. So let's, for an example, if we are transmitting in 100 kilowatt of power from the transmitter, so after like, let's say if it's on a distance of 10 kilometer, we will only receive the power in picowatts. So rest all of is like gone in the reflection, propagation, the environment factor and everything. So here in this image, you can see some of the RCS for the major war fighters. So radar cross section is like a measure of how detectable an object is by the radar. So therefore it is called electromagnetic signature of the object. Now a larger RCS indicates that an object is more easily detectable. An object reflects a limited amount of radar energy back to the source. The factors that influence this include the material of the target which is made, the size of the target relative to the wavelength of the illuminating radar signal, the absolute size of the target, the incident angle, the polarization of the transmitted and received radiation. So while important in detecting target, strength of the emitter and distance are not factors that affect the calculation of an RCS, because RCS is a property of target reflectivity. So here we can see like the example of B2 Spirit, F-22 Raptor, F-35 Lightning. So while no aircraft is totally invisible to radar, still aircraft make it more difficult for conventional radar to detect or track the aircraft effectively. So in addition to reducing the infrared and acoustic emissions, a stealth vehicle must avoid radiating any other detectable energy, such as from onboard radar, communication system, or RF leakage from electronic enclosure. Now, modern military forces rely heavily on a variety of complex, high technology electronic offensive and defensive capability. So traditionally, cyber and electronic warfare were distinct entities. But now cyber warfare involves action by a nation state or international organization to attack and attempt to damage another nation's computer or information network through. So for example, computer virus or a denial of service attack. The military has already designated cyberspace as the fifth domain of war. So along with 4 physical domains like air, land, and space, and it's mulling making the electromagnetic spectrum the 6th domain. So the cyberspace operations are the employment of cyberspace capabilities. So here you can see EW has been a sleeping beauty, hidden away and forgotten for a generation. Now it is a dragon about to be reawakened, and NATO leaders who continue to ignore its significance to do so at the aerial alliance peril. So here you can see like what exactly it looks like, how all of these 5 domains are integrated, what is it going in the radio domain. So in convergence of electronic warfare and computer network exploitation attack within the radio frequency spectrum, it describes how the integration of IP capabilities in system using radio frequency for communication provide attacker the ability to exploit systems on isolated network. So unlike current cyber and electronic warfare protection teams, which are focused on vulnerabilities within their respective areas, adversaries which are focused on achieving desired effect and end state goals, this threat is highlighted by oversight in software and communication systems, which developers in recognizing like vulnerabilities which is introduced during the integration of hardware and software. So digital technology have transformed warfare. Beginning with the emergence of network-centric operation in the 1990s, digital technologies have become the basic of weapons, tactics, and strategy. So today, warfighters use connected devices to coordinate airstrikes on the battlefield. Drones are controlled from thousands of miles away. Commander watch real-time video of streaming video of the battle space and logistics and the border supply chain, which are regulated and managed by complex digitally technologies. So the next generation of emerging technologies such as like artificial intelligence, smart drone, robot, additive manufacturing will make the military even more dependent on digital technologies. So here we can see a quick difference between kinetic weapons and cyber weapons. So kinetic weapons almost always produce irreversible physical effect, whereas cyber weapons can produce completely reversible effect. So through a small fraction of weapons, for example, rubber bullet can deliver quickly recoverable outcome. Most are intended to produce permanent or slow recovery effect, while cyber weapons can produce permanent damage to the physical world, such as in the case of Stuxnet, which caused physical destructions of centrifuge. Other cyber effect can be completely reversed by either the attacker or the victim. For example, when a denial of service attack stops, the target systems return to normal. Encryption, such as used in ransomware, is also reversible given the correct decryption key. So indeed, ransomware relies on reversibility in order to be effective. Demonstration of the capability to deny access and subject belief that it can be undone are the predicate to the victim willingness to pay ransom. Importantly, reversibility can be an asset of or limitations of cyber weapons, depending on the objective of their use. So it is difficult to reverse engineer and reuse kinetic weapons since they are typically damaged beyond reuse of a condition of their employment. So because cyber weapons are often compromised of easily replicable software, they offer more ability for others to abuse, analyze, reuse the weapons by simply copying the software and replaying the construct of its employment. Whether separately or combined, cyber and kinetic weapons are now available as strategic instruments of power and present novel opportunities for pursuing national objectives. So given the short history of cyber warfare, many opportunities remain for future work to deepen the understanding of cyber weapon. As leading gain experience and expertise with cyber weapon, it can be integrated with combat and gray zone options will be strengthened. So here you can see like command and control, why it is most important. So one might consider like C3I is the brain of modern warfare. So if C3I systems are considered the brain, then battlefield sensors are actuators, the Internet of battlefield things are the key, and ears and military maneuver, the hands and the feet. So it is the preservedness of IoT devices that will essentially make the eyes, ear, hands, and feet inseparable from the brain. So we often think like command and control as a distinct and specialized functions like logistics, intelligence, electronic warfare, or administration with its own peculiar methods, vocabulary, and occurring independently of other functions. But in fact, command and control encompasses all military functions and operation, giving them meaning and harmonizing them into a meaningful whole. So done well, command and control adds to our strength. Done poorly, it invites disaster. So even against a weaker army. Now command and control help commander make the most of what they have for people, information, material, and often most of all the time. So here you can see now it's time for cavalry to get serious about the cyber reconnaissance. The whole art of war consists of understanding what is on the other side of the hill. So in this new world, much of the information essential to effective tactical decision making may appear in cyberspace long before it is extracted through the dangerous and painstaking process of air and ground reconnaissance. So such an information important shift requires a reframing of our traditional approach to reconnaissance. Is it now necessary to expand the concept of military reconnaissance to include the cyber domain? If so, how should such a capability be organized in the military? Who should do it, and what are the hazards with such an approach? So there are many case studies like we can like use the crowdsourced surveillance and the future of internet. So let's say, for example, by 2030, more than 125 billion computers, sensors, and IoT devices will be connected to the World Wide Web, roughly 15 for every person's alive. So by that time, nearly 80% of the data which is moving on broadband network will be video. It is reasonable to assume that these trends will combine to create a ubiquitous network of cloud-sourced surveillance, where nearly every event in a public space is recorded and uploaded on the web by private, commercial, or government actors and commercially used on IoT devices. Now, some of the modern equivalent of the World War III era warning that loose lips sink ships. Maybe FFS don't share your Fitbit data on duty. So let's consider the this interesting case study where the fitness data company Strava recently came under fire when it was discovered that its global heat map which aggregated millions of geotrack devices, inadequately revealed the location and outline of US military bases in conflict area. So while this incident provides a useful reminder about the importance of operational security, it reveals a much more valuable message about the future of route reconnaissance as a military operation. So moving a large military force over unfamiliar terrain presents a formidable challenge. So as a result, reconnaissance formation have traditionally needed to reconnoiter ahead of the main body to assess the trafficability of routes. Like Strava, modern digital map applications on most smartphones uses a process of extracting locations from cell tower to determine rate of improvement along roadways. Over time, this anonymized data provides a useful pattern that can show where vehicle traffic is unrestricted, moderately restricted, or impassable. It can therefore be a powerful tool to augment the often dangerous task of ground route reconnaissance. So in addition, where merged with ground moving target indicator from aerial reconnaissance platform, this data can also provide a useful analytical tool to distinguish between civilian and military vehicle movements. So many locations of the military and intelligence SNG bases had already been previously revealed through many other publicly sources. But the bigger worry from an operation security standpoint is how activity data from IoT devices could be used to identify interesting individuals and track them to other sensitive or secretive locations. So history suggests that many of the most significant advances in military technology began first as commercial technology. So radar, for example, was originally developed as a tool to avoid ship collision during limited visibility, but now it's highly sophisticated for defense purpose. These emerging categories of cyber tools like social media, GPS-enabled IoT devices, satellite imagery database from public repositories like Digital Globe, which estimates to restrain a data set of 1 lakh terabytes, are already available in commercial market, with adaptation might provide a real advantage to reconnaissance formation. And the biggest dangers may come from potential adversaries figuring out patterns of life. So by tracking and even identifying military or intelligence agency personnel as they go about their duties or when they come home after deployment, these digital footprints that echo the real life steps of individual underscores a greater challenge. Each person's connection to online services and personal devices make it increasingly difficult to keep secrets. So too often we think secrets lie hidden when they now are mostly open out in the open. Both militaries and the public need to come to grips with the fact that the era of secrets is arguably over. So the focus of the Internet of Battlefield things is to provide situational awareness of the battlefield, which is utilizing a network of interconnected sensors, actuators, and analytical devices. So sensors could detect enemy movement, and they relay that information in real time to analysts, so enabling them to take tactical decisions on positioning areas to avoid or who is crossing a certain area. This capability would potentially save resources and soldiers' life, so making IOBT an important topic for the defense to investigate. And of course, there's a lot of other buzzwords surrounded by this Internet of Things and the industrial Internet of Things. But the big focus of the army is creating another buzz term, adding the B in there. So adding the battlefield is a part of this. So for me, it's always been embedded devices. We are talking about event security in embedded development. The big difference, of course, with all these different terms is what you are using them for. And oftentimes the mission and what people are using them for don't vary that much. But in this case, we are talking about very extreme environment that have very hostile and downright adversarial. So not to say that other type of areas devices are not being attacked daily, either locally or across the globe, but these devices especially will be targeted and attacked often to locations where they are extremely vulnerable. So people literally can woke up and do whatever they want them to. So, and of course, the physical environment, oftentimes you are putting stuff in the field and you are not ever expecting to get it back. And you hope that it stays alive long enough for you to get use out of it. And the last thing being that often these devices are not of any use. So we are not measuring any electric meter. It has to be able to sit there, stay alive, and have a reasonable assurance that it's going to work when we need it. And that could be days, months, in sometimes or years. So there are many challenges with the Internet of Devices in battlefield. So let's see some of them. So in the Internet of Military Things encompasses a large range of devices that possess intelligent physical sensing, learning, and actuation capabilities through virtual or cyber interferences that are integrated into system. So these devices include items such as sensor, vehicle, robot, UAV, human vehicle, wearable devices, biometric, munitions, armor, weapons, and other smart technology. So the vision of a connected battlefield where soldiers interface with the myriad of sensor, weapon system, and support devices and adapt the information to gain situational awareness. As the adversary continues to harness the choice of low-cost, high-adaptability devices for developing new attack vector, the military will be forced to use commercial off-the-shelf hardware to avoid the rapid obsolescence and vulnerable which is introduced by custom-built hardware systems. So the key technology trends in impacting the IOMT theme over the next 12 or 24 months includes AI, sensor, processor, transmitter, health monitoring system, but above all, security presents one of the most critical obstacles to IoT deployment. However, in providing security solutions, suppliers have had trouble going beyond their traditional domain. So, however, like for example, operations in IoT security offers mostly been used by device authentication and network reliability. So clearly breaches can occur at the device level, network level, app level, storage level, or data level. Now, there are like so many different sensors which we use with our IoT devices. So sensor technology is evolving fast, like EO sensor, radar, sonar, motion, sound detector, which have like capabilities augmented as the technology they incorporate improves. So for example, IO or IS sensor see further, but much further climatic and atmospheric condition, whether it is a day or night compared to just a few years ago. So phased array radar can multitask simultaneously collecting intelligence in the land, maritime or air domain without losing range coverage or accuracy. So in the same way, microphone can be used to pick up potential languages that are considered hostile or friendly. So it can identify different type of weapon sound, could check the weapon database to match potential guns that match a certain group of people. RFID, which can be a rudimentary way to confirm that allies are passing by because RFID tags would be assigned to all soldiers. Camera like low quality can be used for discerning color patterns of uniform, while high quality could be used to take a snapshot of object moving in the field of view. We may consume like startup, we need to like send images and there are few challenges as well. So GPS can be used to track locations of sensors, which is registering events. RF, which is like to track radio frequencies over the area of interest. We can use like infrared or thermal sensors to detect heat signature or notify the other sensors to start collecting information. Vibration sensors can be used in battlefield to detect vibration and stress, which is experienced by the sensors to identify friend or foe, which is used by military in conjunction with radar to discern friendly and civilian vehicles and military units. Then again, like magnetor, PIR sensors, ultrasonic. So there are many potential uses of IoT sensors in the battlefield. And some of them are like in this image, you can see how they are integrated in the military, like the uniforms. So the combination of multiple radio, wearable like smart watches and glasses, biosensor, GPS equipment, these are all some of the gear arming soldiers with life-saving information and creating unprecedented visibility into their surrounding. So our current and future soldiers are only as good as the communication that's shared between them. So the sharing of the information wins the fight, not the biggest or best bullet. We are looking at a soldier as a communication intelligence platform, not just a person with a weapon system. So work is underway on new intelligent body, which gear that among other things includes onboard computer that allows soldiers to chat online during missions and to tie into key defense network to tap into intelligence. So as we go down the path of the connected soldier, the design problem becomes a lot more complicated and the design space much harder, because there are so many more ways. Sensors are just like a radar or frequency. So all of a sudden, everything is connected and you may have many proliferating systems. So in this example, like you can see the drone, which is advertised to get some awesome paranomic shots, can be used to carry small payloads or grenades. So this drone comes with a high explosive warhead, which hangs out in the sky until it finds an enemy radar system and then fires on it. Oh, and that driverless car you thought was so cool. Here it is in tank from a form at a Russian arms fair. It includes the T-14. So one of the big concerns about such swarms is the issue of autonomy and just how much a real control the operator have over their action. So far, there have always been a human behind any kill or no kill decisions, but with more capable swarm, things may not be so simple. So here you can see like radars is very hard to detect it by the naked eye, and more than 4 lakh drones are sold each year worldwide, which means a potential threat for society and critical infrastructure. Illegal filming of secret objects as well as personal privacy is very common. So the applicability of drone detection and identification methods depends on requirement mandated by real life scenarios. That being said, we observe that methods other than RF sensing cannot be solely be reliable to detect or identify intruding drones. So on one hand, radar, vision, and acoustic bands method can be restrained in various ways, such as using stealth technology, changing the drone physical shape and rotor, using low noise rotor, and by emitting natural sound like bird chirps or white noise. In addition, such methods require expensive equipment like high quality video camera that is not designed to detect drone. Moreover, Wi-Fi based methods are inherently limited as they cannot detect drones operated by other wireless technologies like 4G, and they require knowledge of the drone's Wi-Fi parameter as well. So on the other hand, we see that RF sensing based methods for drone detection and identification are adequate to be used in real life scenarios. So such methods are independent of the wireless technology which is utilized by the drone like Bluetooth, 4G or Wi-Fi, and are immune to physical alteration or differentiations among drones. So however, current end methods are not still fully automated nor robust due to the lack of the large labeled database for the drone RF signal. Some of the major challenges are like, if we take an example of airports, so we have passengers, aircraft, cargo, parking garages, fuel facilities, airline buildings to secure. So in sense of SMR, which is surface movement radar, we need to upgrade it. Like we need some kind of upgradation in the ASDE system so that it can detect like the small drones as well in the proximity of airport. There have been like many incidents in last few months where aircraft drones have attacked the aviation industry. Now the other thing is improvised expensive devices, which is IED. So many IED devices are using the radio frequency for the the controlation and for the command link. So these IED are inexpensive, easy to build and acquire, and very difficult to trace and can be triggered from long distances, keeping the operator safe from any detonation or exposure to military forces. So RC-IED is simply explosive material that is integrated with a handheld wireless devices or device that will trigger upon receipt of a signal from a second wireless handheld devices. So these RCE devices have caused many fatalities and injury to forces and coalition partner. So the solution is like we need to use the counter IED techniques. Some of the IED technology is only limited by the ingenuity of the person which is manufacturing or deploying the devices. Now some of the okay, we are running out of time, so I will quickly move forward. So the moving portray a war in space, such as they do on Earth. Starfighters dogfight with unlimited maneuverability and range. Troops transgroups like from orbit to celestial surfaces to deliver space marines. So how do we think about a space war? War fighting on Earth typically involves competitors fighting to dominate a physical location, opposing military forces like to fight to take control of the land, sea, and air over a certain part of Earth to expand influence over people or resources. So space warfare does not follow this paradigm. Satellites in orbit do not occupy or dominate a signal location over time. Instead, satellite provides capabilities such as communication, navigation, and intelligence catering to Earth-based militaries. Therefore, to control space is not necessary to physically conquer sectors of space, but rather to reduce or eliminate adversaries' satellite capabilities while ensuring one retains the ability to freely operate their own space capabilities. So the weapon used to achieve these goals can be either ground-based or space-based, and can be reversible or irreversible. So the furthermore, space weapons type like ranges from kinetic weapons, which must physically affect a target, to standoff weapon, which can reach a target many miles away. So kinetic physical counter space, like which involves directed ascent set, co-orbital asset missiles, ground station attack. Meanwhile, non-kinetic attack involves electromagnetic pulse attack, high-powered laser, and high-powered microwave. So non-kinetic weapons are all RF based, and that are like going to be the future of defense. So weapons have physically effect on satellite or ground systems without making physical contact. Lasers can be used to temporarily dazzle or permanently blind the sensors on satellite or cause components to overheat. Meanwhile, like high power microwave weapons can disrupt a satellite electronics or cause permanent damage to its electrical circuits. Meanwhile, we can also see like in counter space weapons, we have electronic warfare techniques such as like jamming and spoofing. Meanwhile, on cyber attack, we can like perform attacks such as data intercept monitoring, data corruption, or seizure of control. So we have already discussed about the electronic warfare, so we know like how the jamming and spoofing is performed. Now, to understand like how this effect could play in a conflict, there are a couple of key which is important to understand. So the intensity dissipation, which is an electromagnetic signal, whether radio frequency or light, is emitted from a source. The intensity of the signal decreases with the square of the distance from the source. So the farther away, the weaker it is. An object 10 km from a surface will experience only 1% of the intensity of an object next to the source. So for satellites in orbit, where distances are often measured in hundreds or thousands of kilometers, a threat would need high power level to successfully engage with electronic warfare or directed energy weapons. So signals in a vacuum only lose strength due to a distance. However, when a signal goes through the atmosphere, gases such as water vapor and oxygen absorb most of the intensity. Liquid water also decreases signal strength at many frequencies. This means that a ground to space or surface to ground attack will require more power than a space to space attack of the same distance. Now, precision, which is like electronic warfare, requires a large degree of precision to execute. So in this context, precision refers to how well an attacker can match the signal or focus on its target. So for a jamming attack to be successful, the attacker must transmit a jamming signal that matches the signal of the target receiver. So even through a jamming a large block of signal in hope like of hitting the right signal. So or through simply matching the targeted signal. Now matching a signal is a combination of achieving the right frequency, polarization, and signal strength. The frequency of the signal refers to the number of times the signal oscillates through space. Meanwhile, spoofing attack require even harder, greater precision. In addition to matching the signal frequency, polarization, and signal strength, and a spoofer must also broadcast the right type of information on this signal. So as an example, suppose an attacker wish to use spoofing technique to transmit false troop location to a targeted system. So for the attack to work, the spoofer must know what signal to broadcast and give data that is close enough to the truth so it is believable. So the attacking spoofer must thoroughly understand both the signal itself and how the signal is interpreted by the targeted system to be effective. So the more we can intentionalize these insights, the better we can understand the stakes of a geopolitical fights in space. So for example, a 1 kiloton device is believed to be strongest if detonated at around 25 miles from the Earth. So if detonated much higher, the electromagnetic pulse would dissipate too much. If too much detonated much lower, deep inside the Earth atmosphere, it would not produce an EMP of consequences at all. So like all of the electronic devices which we are using will go off. So in as we are already running out of time, so where the military has been driver in connected in machine-to-machine communication, such as radio frequency identification, it has been slow to adapt true IoT application that need this communication into interoperable automated cycles. So communication remains within their given challenges, not easily shared or aggregated. So the challenge is that defense leader wishing to take advantage of the IoT face of complex technological and regulatory landscape that threatens to mire their efforts in endless choices and challenges. So the army has done a lot of work on system that can work without a constant internet connection to get around this. But because they are not linked to the internet, they have limited utility. But all of this expanded connectivity and technology brings a host of risk too. So for one, creating Wi-Fi enabled uniform and weapon could give enemies many more digital target. If malicious hacker can manipulate sensors to fake chemical attack, those false signal can be deliberating. So then and now it is hard to overstate the importance of information to military commander everywhere. While the rest of the world was waking up to the internet in 1996, the military, for example, was already outlining plans for information superiority. So with information so central to all activities, the military is naturally hungry for technology or tools that improve communication, routing, or processing of information. So these are all the peoples, like I am really thankful for their research, their work standards and academia. So you can follow them on and read this paper. In conclusion, I will say like the combined effect of non-federated network, encoded data on the network, or increased use of wireless devices and advancement in high power jammer will continue to push the realm of cyber electronic warfare. The growth in these two realms will undoubtedly continue bringing challenges to the future warfare that will move the center of focus from kinetic operation to that of non-kinetic. The threat of overpowering cyber and EW forces will likely generate increased funding of non-kinetic research and a shift in operational mentality. So could this be the next Cold War or just the unseen war? So this is all about me. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me either on email or you can tweet me. Thank you for your attention. I hope you enjoyed my talk. If you have any questions, I will be in the HITV studios in 5 minutes, where I will be happy to answer them. Please ask your questions on the Discord channel. Otherwise, you can always reach out to me on my LinkedIn and Twitter. Thank you so much.